I created this sequence to help you build more mobility in your spine and strengthen your core outside of staying in a neutral spine, because we cannot always stay in a neutral spine, especially when we are putting our baby into a crib or taking our baby out of a crib. And so we have to train our body to be able to move through those activities in a safe way. We're going to start on our hands and knees. And we're going to start with just pelvic tilts. Now, when you do these pelvic tilts, I want you to think about bringing your sit bones to the backs of your knees and really rounding through your low back, which scoops up your pubic bone in the front. And then you are going to arch the opposite way. Now, I want you doing this without gripping through the glutes. Okay, I want your abs and your hamstrings to be the movers of this action. Once you've done 8 of these, you're then going to go into a bigger cat-cow. So we're gonna scoop under and then round all the way up, tucking, and then going in the reverse on inhale, exhale. Use those hamstrings. Bring those sit bones to the backs of your knees, scooping up through the abs, bringing the pubic bone forward. And we're doing another 8 of these. We're really articulating through that spine. You might not get as much range as I do. Everyone has their own range, especially if you're first starting out. From there, we're going to go on to our backs, and we're going to use a ball or a pillow or something between your knees. Okay, from here, again, we're going to start with just pelvic tilts so that we can feel what's happening and how much mobility we have in that low spine. So we're going to start off with exhaling. As we exhale, again, we're bringing our sit bones to the backs of our knees, not clenching through those glutes. So hamstrings are turning on to bring the sit bones to the backs of the knees. You are scooping through the abdominals a little bit, and we are squeezing the whatever you have between your knees to help energize that deep core line. You shouldn't be feeling any pushing down into the pelvic floor, but you also don't necessarily need to be doing a massive pelvic floor contraction at this moment. So the knee squeeze and just making sure that you're not getting any pushing out or bearing down during this is totally fine. So as I'm doing this, I'm just tipping my pelvis back a little bit on exhale and then bringing it back to neutral on inhale. Again, we're doing 8 of these. And I'm really just targeting that low spine, getting again some mobility into the vertebrae. Not way up here, right below, just at the top of your pelvis, which is your low spine. From there, we're gonna roll up and we're gonna do a mini bridge. I like placing my hands on my low belly and my upper belly because this helps me guide the movement and the sensations that I'm supposed to be feeling as I articulate one vertebrae at a time off of the floor. So again, I am going to squeeze my ball. As I exhale, I'm going to think about bringing my sit bones to the backs of my knees using my hamstrings, and then my glutes are going to turn on to lift me, to power me up into the bridge. But I am bringing one vertebrae up at a time. I'm going to pause, I'm going to hold, and then I'm going to lower back down on my next exhale, bringing one vertebrae down at a time, making sure you are still squeezing because I don't want your glutes pinching I want them being nice and round. And I am bringing one vertebrae down at a time. It is really challenging to do this because we are getting into those little muscles around our vertebrae to activate this move. And a lot of times they have not done this in a long time. So we want to go nice and slow, controlled movement, not pinching through the glutes, though your glutes are powering you up and down. So you can see that now as I'm going down, my upper hand is going down first. And then it's like I'm spreading myself out. Last one. And I'm rolling myself up. And then I am spreading myself out. Good. From there, we're going to go back onto our hands and knees and do a little bit for our shoulder blades. So in addition to lifting our babies and working on our spine, we also want to strengthen up our serratus under our armpit to help us with that movement of lifting, as well as start to build some mid-back strength. So we're going to start off with hands and knees, and we are going to keep our spine in neutral this time, and we're just going to sink by pulling our shoulder blades together and then bringing our shoulder blades apart and thinking about them wrapping into our armpits. So they pull together and then they wrap into our armpits. And we really want to be thinking it's that bottom section of our shoulder blade that's wrapping and tucking into the armpit. Pull them together without your neck muscles involved. You should be able to do this and not feel any tension. And then wrap them into the armpits and pull the shoulder blades together and wrap them into the armpits. We're going to do 2 more of these. 1 and 2. Fantastic. Okay, so that's a nice little warm up. We're going to be adding some more into later. Now we're going to stand up from here and we are going to work on our spine mobility in standing, because this is the position that we are going to be in when we are lowering our babes into the crib or lifting them out. And this also works for a low, like travel crib or a regular height crib, or you don't necessarily have to think about doing these with a bassinet because it's not super high up. You should be able to fold at the hips to be able to get them out. This is really working on having to round because it's so incredibly low, or you have to go up and over the side of the crib. So again, we're going to put the ball between our knees. First, we are going to just hinge at the hips so that we can just practice letting go of those glutes and really making sure that we can fold forward without tucking our butt. So yes, we were just tucking our butt, but we were using our hamstrings and our abdominals to do that, not our glutes. We need to make sure that our glutes can lengthen out as we are folding forward, because they're the power behind coming back up. And if we were squeezing and tucking as we go forward like this, they're not going to give us any of that power to come back up. So we need to really practice to make sure that they are nice and lengthened out so then they can power us back up. So this is a really great one. If this is challenging for you, I recommend you go up to a wall and you want to kiss the wall with your sit bones as you bend forward, and then you come away from the wall as you come back up. But again, you're not tucking under. Now we're going to do that articulating as we go down, but still we are not tucking our butt under. We are making sure that our butt is lengthening out. So we're going to start at the top of our head. I like to think about a whale spout, because I'm not just collapsing down. I am thinking that I am moving up and then around, okay? Like a whale spout, where it shoots up into the sky first and then it comes up and around. So that is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking tall spine, and then I am starting to round up and over as if there was something here, like the crib wall, and I want to go up and around, but I am not tucking my butt under. I am allowing my glutes to lengthen out. Now I'm going to squeeze that ball, and I am going to articulate back up. My glutes, my abs are going to help me come back up out of this as I stack back up one vertebrae at a time. We're going to practice that again. So we're going to think length, tall spine, up towards the ceiling. Then I'm going to go up and around. And you should really feel that your abs are kicking in. You might actually want to be squeezing that ball as you are doing this, because you are really working those abs to really articulate as you go down, and then as you come up. We are stacking one at a time. You might feel like I can't do one at a time, and that is okay for right now. You are working on it. It'll come as you improve your mobility, as you improve your strength. We just want to make sure that we're not gripping and locking down. Fantastic. Let's do one more. So we're thinking leg towards the ceiling, and then up and around. My glutes are lengthening, and now my glutes are pulling myself back up as I stack back up. Now we need to do this with weights. So we're going to start with a lower weight. Even though your baby is going to be more than this weight that you are using, start off with a lower weight and see what your threshold is. If you can do everything that you just did without a weight comfortably, doesn't cause any pain, then you can increase that weight until you find a weight that you cannot do it comfortably anymore. You're starting to grip through the glutes as you go down. Then you know you've met your threshold, and you want to back off and go back to the weight that was lower than the one that you just tried. So again, we're gonna go back to doing straight deadlifts so that you are hinging just at the hips. We're not articulating quite yet. So you are going to fold, and you're going to slide that weight down, and then you are going to squeeze the ball, and you are going to lift through the pelvic floor. You are going to zip up through your abs, and those glutes are going to hinge you back up. They are not pinching, they are not squeezing towards each other. They are hinging. So we're gonna lengthen out. You should not be squeezing your glutes right now. And then we are going to squeeze that ball. Pelvic floor is closing and lifting in, zipping up through the abs. And then we are gonna use those glutes to hinge back up. Inhale, exhale. Inhale. You should not be feeling it in your back right now. If you are feeling it in your back already, then the weight is too much for your muscles right now. Your muscles cannot handle the weight that you are doing. And so you may need to drop down to a different weight. Also, pausing, this is our last one, pausing and making sure that, okay, yep, my glutes weren't on. Now I can make sure I am layering on from the deepest muscles out, and really making sure that they were on first, and I'm not losing them as I come back up. Great. Now we are going to add in that articulating. So this also, you may need to drop down to a different weight if your body is not used to doing this. If your bigger back spine muscles are doing all of the work with this, then you need to drop down to a different weight, or just use a resistance band, which is lighter. So again, we're going to be thinking about that whale spout where we are going straight up to the ceiling first, and then we are curling around. So we're going to go tall, tall, tall. Then we are going to reach up and around As we lower down, my glutes are lengthening, and I squeeze my ball. I close and lift it on the pelvic floor. I zip up my abs, and now my glutes are helping as I roll back up to stack back up. Again, I'm not pinching in my glutes. So I'm gonna grow tall, I'm gonna reach up and around as if I am going over the side of the crib. Now I'm gonna go all the way down, lengthening out those glutes, and then I'm gonna squeeze, close, lift, zip. Glutes are powering me through. Should not be feeling this in your back one bit. Reach up and around. Yes, my spine muscles are working, but it is not those more superficial muscles of my spine that are working. Up and around, this is our last one. Fantastic. Okay, now, sometimes we need to go wide with our legs, right? We're not always going to be this narrow when we are picking up or laying down our baby into the crib. So going wide is also a great way to practice these. So going wide, starting off with just the hip hinge and coming back up. Now, I like thinking about spreading the rug or the mat or whatever you have underneath your feet to really turn on those outer hips. You can even add on a band so that you're feeling it out here, creating a little bit more stability. It's just like adding the ball to squeeze through the hips. So my glutes are lengthening. Another thing to really be thinking about with all of these, which I hope you notice, is that my chin is staying tucked. I want to give myself almost a double chin when I'm doing this, because that helps keep my deep core line involved. Last one. My knees are also soft. I am not locking my knees out. I'm not really bent, but they are not locked out. So keep those knees soft. Now we add in that articulating. So I'm gonna think whale spout. So lengthen through the spine, up and around and down, lengthening out those glutes. Now I'm going to close, lift pelvic floor, zip up abdominals as I stack, using those glutes to help power me back up. Now it might be harder in this position, really thinking about spreading those feet apart in a very even way. You shouldn't feel your weight in one particular spot on your foot. It should be very even. Do one more. Okay, now this is also not a position that we may always be using to put our babies down into the crib. We might go into more of a warrior position with our legs, because we can actually get nice and close to the crib, as well as, especially if we are laying our babies down because they fell asleep in our arms, we can lay them down more easily. If, say, the head is here, we can lay them down more easily from this position than this position, okay? Or if their head is here, we put our legs this way. So we're gonna practice both directions. I want you to practice both directions. Again, without a weight to start with. So we're going to go into this warrior position, pretending that that crib side is right up against us. We're first going to hinge. So we're just hinging at the hips, making sure that we do not tuck as we hinge. Again, this time we are keeping those ribs stacked over the pelvis. When we go down, our ribs should not pop forward. So we're keeping those ribs nice and stacked. Okay, last one. Then we're going to do our articulating. So again, we're thinking whale spout, length, up and over, hinging, and then stack back up. You will feel this unevenly in your glutes, and that's okay, as long as you are not pinching them together. So up and over to articulate down, and then we are stacking back up and over, and then stack back up. Fantastic. Okay, again, now we need to add the weight. Weight with just the hip hinge. So we are hip hinging, we are not articulating yet, and coming back up, using those glutes. Okay. You might need to use a different weight again, or just resistance bands. Same type of breathing, where we are closing the pelvic floor, lifting in, zipping up through the abs, and then it is those glutes that are powering you back up. Okay, now we're going to articulate. So reach towards the ceiling, up and over, and then we are stacking back up, really making sure that those glutes are kicking on. Lengthen the glutes, really rounding, and then we are closing pelvic floor, pulling in, zipping abs, glutes, powering you through this, not your back muscles. Up, articulate over, and then close, lift, zip, glutes. You might notice, then you're going to do it on the opposite side. You might notice that when you're doing that when one glute is more turned on than the other. So you want to try to even that out. So say your back glute is not as on as the front glute when you're in this position. When you are coming up, really make sure that that glute is lifting up and away from your femur versus pinching in towards your sacrum. You want to think lift away from the femur as you are hinging back up, okay? To really make sure that that back glute, or whichever glute you don't feel like is turning on for you. Okay, we're gonna add in some more arms again. So find what weight threshold works for you. Just arms, it might be even less, and that is totally fine. Or just go to straight band that is underneath your feet when you're doing this. So this is going to be very similar to what we did on hands and knees, but now we are doing free weights. So we're gonna hinge at the hips, really make sure that our ribs are stacked over our pelvis. Okay, if you want to, you can add the ball between your knees. Then from here, we're going to pull those shoulder blades together and then wrap the shoulder blades into the armpits. Pull the shoulder blades together, wrap them into the armpits. Pull, and when we're doing this, I am not sagging my ribs. My ribs are staying nice and stacked. Exhale as you pull those ribs together, squeeze that ball, and then add in the pelvic floor and abs to help you stay in this position without tucking and squeezing those glutes. This is very challenging, but if you have to rub your baby's back and you are over your crib for an extended period of time, it can get really tiresome. And so having that more endurance in your core to be in that position, it takes time and it takes training to do so. But it's also okay to sit down on the floor and put your arm through the slats as well. Okay, so from there, we're going to do a row. After you've taken a break, you've stood up, use your glutes to stand back up, not your back muscles, not by tucking under. So we're gonna go back down and we are going to now do some rows. So rows start with your shoulder blades coming together and then the arms follow. We inhale, exhale, squeeze the ball, close pelvic floor, zip on up just to help us stabilize through here. Shoulder blades start it, then elbows follow. We can all do this motion really easily, but we are being extremely intentional about what muscles we are using so that we are building a whole system to work for us. One more. Awesome. Use those glutes to stand back up. Okay, great. Let's do a really quick stretch where you are going to lie on your back. You're going to put one ankle onto the opposite knee. You're going to pull that knee in, and you're going to rock from side to side. Just give your glutes a little lovin' because they were working hard for you. The further over you go this way, you might feel more of a stretch. Okay, pause after just rocking a little bit. Breathe down into your butt. Your pelvis should be able to be fairly neutral in this stretch. You shouldn't feel like you have to round your spine to get this going. Now lower and switch. If it's really hard to bring your leg up and you're already feeling a stretch with your foot down, keep your foot down. You don't need to bring your leg in if you're already getting a stretch. And then we're gonna rock side to side. One side might feel tighter than the other. And that might be, maybe it was working more, might be weaker. And then pause. Breathe into your butt. Bring your leg down. Roll to your side if you want. You could end everything in a child's pose. So you can rest down, breathe into your low back. This is just one sequence. It takes time to build up the strength and the mobility that you need, especially as your baby is growing. You might notice that, oh, I start to feel it in my back. Your baby might just had a growth spurt. So now you have to play a little bit of catch up. But if you try to stay on top of this, you might not have to play catch up. We really need to train our bodies for all of the different things that we have to do as a mom. But we also have to not be fearful of going outside of perfect. And that's why we want to train in lots of different positions and work our muscles in different ways. But on top of this, you also want to make sure that you are being very mindful and intentional during the actual act of putting your baby into the crib and taking your baby out of the crib. Those are going to be very key times for you to be aware of how you are using your muscles, how you are articulating through your spine or not, how you are clenching through your glutes or not, and really being intentional in the moment when you can. It's not going to happen 100% of the time, but the more you can be intentional in the moment, the more you're going to create a better brain body connection, and then all of this work that you're doing outside of that is going to work even better for you. Give me a follow over at Expecting Pelvic Health on Instagram and follow along here on my channel.